The Exlantix ET is currently only on sale here in Norway, in Europe at the moment. But that will hopefully change in the near future as this goes on sale in more countries in Europe later this year and in 2026. But just to give you guys some reference, here in Norway, this 77 kilowatt hour version with all-wheel drive, all the bells and whistles, including air suspension, cost 569,000 kroners, or 49,000 euros. And that is about 500 euros cheaper than a Tesla Model Y long-range all-wheel drive with enhanced autopilot, but without the big wheels and without the upgraded interior. And that is just insane, because the amount of car you're getting here, the features, the spec, and the equipment is completely insane. And I think this at the moment offers the best value in any electric car on sale outside of China. But today's big question is, are all of these bells and whistles and all of these insane features like the 420 kilowatts of peak charging speed enough to overcome the weaknesses and the flaws and the issues that this car has? Because there are many of those as well. So all of that and more are the questions we're going to answer in today's review of the Exlantix ET. The most insane thing about this car is the CATL lithium iron phosphate battery that can charge at a rate of 5C, which is insane. And that means this battery pack size, which is 77 kilowatt hours gross, can charge up to 420 kilowatts. I've only tested this on 400 kilowatt chargers twice, and I wasn't able to get 400. I got like 392 in one of the tests, and the other test like 380, almost 390. Either way, guys, 10 to 15%, 6 minutes. I did 10 to 60% in 7.5 minutes, 10 to 70% in 9.5 minutes, and 10 to 80% in 11.5 minutes. That was my recorded charging time. And when we were at 80%, the car said we would be at 100% in 10 minutes. So if we can trust the car, that is 10 to 100% in 22 minutes. And that really means that the battery pack size here for those longer trips, even though it's only 74.8 kilowatt hours usable, you can charge up to 100% while going on a long trip. So I really think that this battery pack size, even though the real world range isn't that great, as I, tested in my range test, I think with those charge speeds, it doesn't matter as much. The ET has a very clean and simple design with straight lines, balanced proportions, and a boxy look. Some people may think it's boring, but I think it is elegant and manages to be classy like a Range Rover without being a copycat of any product from the British Isles. The front is unmistakably its own thing, but in my opinion, it just works. In the week I tested the car, it got a lot of attention. And in my opinion, I think it is really cool to see the Chinese brands finally starting to design cars with their own distinct look. First impressions of the interior here in the ET is phenomenal. I mean, this is an impressive interior and has to be easily the best interior in any car below 50,000 euros. I mean, it is impressive. With that being said, I have to be honest and say that, a brown or beige interior like this is something I am really weak for, because that is something I had in my very first XC90, the car I started this channel on. It had an amber Napa leather interior, and this kind of reminds me of that. But I don't feel like this is a copycat of any European interior. I really just like the color combo here because it gives that really luxurious vibe. But materials are really impressive. I mean, on the dashboard you have soft touch materials up here, on the doors down here. It's not before you're touching the door bins here on the door pockets that you have hard touch plastics. It is an impressive interior. You also have this, open pore wood here, and also by the window switches. I'm not sure if this is real, but I don't really care because it feels nice and it also looks nice. And also these seats, it's not a leather imitation material. It's something kind of like a mix between velour and a wetsuit type of material. And I really, really like it. It just oozes Chinese luxury. And that's what this interior tells me. It's not trying to be anything from, you know, the US. It's not trying to be anything from Europe or trying to copy anything from Japan. This is its own distinct interior, you know, design language and also material finishes. It's a unique thing. I really, really like it. There are two things I don't like about this interior, and that is this, you know, steering wheel that's squished on top and on the bottom, and also the screen up there. I just wished it had a normal, you know, steering wheel and also a display here, and for me, it would be perfect. This is just a really nice interior, and by far the best interior at this price point. But what's less than good is the infotainment system. So the infotainment in of itself is okay. In some cases it is pretty decent. I mean, you have a drop down menu here for a few shortcuts, for example your seat controls, your mirror, your steering wheel controls also, and your different drive modes. And it's quite responsive. The screen is a nice size, the colors are great, black levels are pretty decent, but it's also pretty cumbersome. For example, you have your heated seats here, which is okay, but if I want to do my heated steering wheel, I have to go into a different menu, and that is here. Why isn't that in the same place? That is just annoying, especially here. Now it's getting cold in winter. I have to switch in between menus. But the worst thing is its suite of driver assistance systems that you want to turn off every time you get into the car. You know, you're going to turn off some systems more than others. But in my experience with this car, the ADAS isn't the greatest. If you want, you know, detailed review on that, go check out my range test because I talk about that more in depth. But to turn off, you know, your normal driver assistant features and just to set up the car, you have to go into My Car. And then you have this quick menu here on the left side, but you have to navigate through so much. So it starts from the top and then you go into driving. And what's really annoying here is that you have a custom mode, but it doesn't remember the custom settings. It always defaults to comfort and to standard. So I found the best, you know, mode for driving is leaving it in here, standard suspension height, and also going into sport on the suspension. So that's one setting you have to do. So you have to press a few times to set up the car for your liking. And also, this is also annoying. One pedal drive is on, but not really, because it always creeps at a low speed. So it's not true one pedal drive until you press there, which is called hold mode, or in every other car, it is just one pedal drive. So that sets up your drivetrain. You have to do that every time you get into the car. And then also your driver assistance systems, this you also have to do every time you get into the car. So let's see, you have your forward collision warning, that's pretty okay. Emergency braking, but my lane departure assistant, I want that off. And also emergency lane keeping, I want off also, that is way too aggressive. And then you also want your speed limiter off. And then you also want your speed limit change alert. But you have to change that separately and then press that off. That is really, really annoying. So that is all your driver assistance systems. And then you have your driver monitoring here, distraction monitoring, and then fatigue monitoring. So first, now you're ready to go. So that is an insane setup sequence every time you get into the car. With a length of almost 5 meters and a wheelbase of 3 meters, that is very positive for rear seat accommodation, because the amount of space here is very impressive. So I'm sat behind myself. I'm 180 centimeters or 5'11", and I have massive amounts of knee room, and also there's room for my feet underneath the front seat. And because we're in an SUV, the seat cushion isn't too close to the floor, so I also have decent under thigh support. So sitting here for longer or shorter trips is really, really nice. And also even the roof here is covered in this microfiber type of material. It's just an impressive interior when it comes to quality and materials. You have a cup holder here, you have a armrest here with dual cup holders. Yeah, this the ambiance and, you know, this just a luxurious atmosphere is really impressive in this car. So just quickly before we set off, the route planner is pretty easy to use. It finds, you know, charters and destinations. The interface is big, it's large, it's quick. But the route planner has not been the most accurate to predict, percentage at arrival, as you can see in my range test, and also ADAS functionality in this car is also pretty poor. So check out my range test down below. I'm gonna link that there for you guys who want to check that out, and also the real world range of this car. So 74.8 kilowatt hours of usable battery capacity. It doesn't have the best range in the real world. Again, I'm going to link my video down below. WLTP rates this car at 411, but to find out what this car does at 120 kilometers an hour or 75 miles an hour, check out my range test, as I said. So put the car into drive, and we're going to start off in the less than ideal setting, which is, let's go up here again. No, driver assistant driving, and that is just custom mode here, and we want to do suspension. No, okay, now it it already reset. So that's insane. I've just been out of the car moving around the cameras, and also already reset even with the key here. So I'm just going to check that all the assistant systems are turned off. Okay, that's off, and also your, there we go, monitoring is off, and also driving, and one pillar drive is on. No. It's insane. I mean, that is so annoying. And also the one pedal drive in this car, far from my favorite. I'm going to show you guys that in a second. So setting off here, air suspension in comfort. This is an impressively comfortable car. Also on. So parking sensors. It detects, I'm going to overlay some footage now, but it detects and beeps at sidewalks, which is so annoying, or even just curbs along the road. I was sitting in traffic last week on my way out of downtown Oslo, and just into this red light, it took like 10 minutes because there was a lot of traffic, and every time we kept moving, it would bing and beep on the curb, which was about this high, and we were a half a meter away from it. So annoying. So that is one of the issues. Like that wall is so far away. It's insane. Okay, so this car, 21-inch wheels as standard. This car has all the best belt and whistles here in Norway. It's the top spec with everything. So suspension comfort, ride comfort is impressive. Your first impressions of this car is that it just rides so smoothly and so softly due to air suspension, even on these large 21-inch wheels. And it's butterly smooth. Over a speed bump here, let's see if we can exit here. It is just so nice. Really nice. Impressive. And also the amount of noise in this cabin, very impressive. To check out my instrumented testing, that is also in my range test. But then you drive this car a little bit, and then you go a little bit too fast over some speed bumps, or you hit a bumpy road, or you go on a motorway, and you're like, it's just a little bit too softly set up. And again, you can go into your drive modes here, and then you can, for example, go into custom, but they have to do that every time you get into the car. So it is a bit annoying. But where's our custom mode now? Is that gone? Custom, there we go. There we go, personalized setting. So you put your suspension into sport, and it stiffens up, and that waftiness problem, it's so soft, the suspension, that if you go a little bit too fast over a speed bump, you'll easily hit the bump stops. And I can't remember ever experiencing that in a new car. The last time has to be an old car, with all really old, worn out dampers and springs, where the suspension is just way too soft. I can't remember ever experiencing that in a new car. But with this car, it is way too soft. They have not spent nearly enough time as they need to doing the development of this chassis and the ride for the European market. This is just catered to Chinese customers, and for European customers, it is way too soft. So you can mitigate that by putting it into sport suspension. But in my opinion, then it doesn't ride nearly as nice. It is a little bit too stiff for the type of vehicle, but it is a lot more livable. Here is pretty decent on this stretch of road here, where I test all of the cars, you know, one motion in sport mode. It just controls its body mass really, really nicely. But the trade-off is that you're going to get a lot more, you know, a lot more chatter in the ride, a lot more, you know, suspension noise. And also what you're going to experience is that because this car is on big wheels, you're going to get this jitter over, you know, harshness, over speed bumps that I can't remember getting in other than, you know, really large SUVs with big wheels from about 10, 15 years ago. This car has that. Just a lot of chatter in the suspension, and it's not as refined. So either you want a super soft, refined ride, but then it's way too soft, or you want a controlled ride, which isn't going to make you seasick, but then it doesn't feel as refined. So I think the hardware is here, like the suspension geometry is probably there. I haven't had a look underneath the car, so I really don't know, but it feels really competent. And also it is on air suspension. So I think this is just down to the time they have spent or the time they haven't spent tuning this chassis. But with that being said, the seats are comfortable. You have a nice high driving position. The view out of the greenhouse is really good, and the car is quiet and comfortable. And you have this beautiful interior you're sitting in, and also the hood, really nice, you know, lines in the hood. It kind of feels like a mini Range Rover from behind the wheel, and I really, really like it, guys. To answer the question I asked at the beginning of the video, that was, are all the bells and whistles, all of the features, all of the insane specs you're getting here for this price point, considering the value proposition, enough to overcome all of the flaws, all of the issues, and all of the problems with the Exlantix ET? Normally, I am very harsh on cars with issues and even software issues, more so than other reviewers, because in my opinion, I'm not, you know, reviewing a car based on future promises of future upgrades and updates and software fixes. I'm here to review the car as it is at the moment of filming. And not me, not you, or not even the engineers who build these cars are always aware of when they are going to get fixed and how good the fixes are going to be. Just take, for example, a look at the Tesla Model Y long-range all-wheel drive, which still has phantom braking with its autopilot or its, you know, advanced driver assistance systems on the stretch of E6 motorway I've tested cars for the past 4 years. Still not fixed. And if I reviewed that car 4 years ago, you know, the Model Y long-range all-wheel drive, the old model when that came out, I would have said like, yeah, okay, this is going to be fixed. So that's not something I can do. But with this car, the issues aren't as severe. They aren't as serious as with other cars. They are, for the most part, annoying. And some of the fixes here are, you know, just the setup of the infotainment system. We're talking about software, you know, shortcuts that can be added to a UI that is already here. But with that being said, I have no idea if they're going to improve a single thing of the infotainment system, because I have no experience with this brand other than this car I've driven, and also I drove one in China earlier this year. So I really don't know. But what I can say is that the bones here, the platform, this car drives better just as it is than most Chinese cars I drive. Yes, the suspension is too soft, but the steering is pretty good. The seats are pretty good. I love the interior, and the exterior styling is also very restrained and elegant, and I really like it. I really like this look, exterior and interior. And also, it offers a great amounts of space, a large front seat, a large rear seat, and also a large frunk and trunk. And then you have the charging technology, the 5C battery here, CATL's LFP battery that charges from 10 to 80% in 11.5 minutes is insane. And that works. So if you're looking to buy the best value car on the market, and this is your budget, I really don't think you can go wrong if you can live with these software issues and glitches and issues with this car, which I do find annoying. But when the car works, it's also a pleasure to drive. So this is one of the cars I really hope they just, go one round, do a few software updates, and fix the small issues here and there. Because I think when that is fixed, this car is hard to beat at this price point. It really does feel like a luxury car from behind the wheel, but at an immensely cheap price. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys later and goodbye.